What is a space elevator?
A space elevator is a theoretical design for an elevator that will take you into space. It's a very long cable. It's going to be hundreds of thousands of miles long. It's going to take some object, like something you want to put into space, and lift it up slowly out of Earth's atmosphere and into space, and then release it so that you don't have to use like a massive amount of rocket fuel to do the same thing in a much more expensive way like we have to do now.
How did you get interested in space elevators?
Okay, I was an undergraduate physics student at Columbia University. I was taking this freshman seminar on special topics in physics, and we had to do this project on some cool idea in physics. I was working with a classmate of mine who is now a famous astrophysicist at Penn State University, and he said, hey, I've heard about this crazy concept, this crazy futuristic concept called space elevators. Why don't we do the report on that? And I said, great.
Amazing, oh my goodness. What is the difference between a space elevator and an Earth elevator?
Space elevators are very, very long and very, very tall. An Earth elevator works by cables, so you have, like a cable that kind of moves, like it goes down on one side and up on the other side. A space elevator has one cable, and it's super fixed. Like, basically, it doesn't work. It works by, like, tension. So you have a cable that's, like, maybe 100,000 kilometers long. It's super, super tense at all times. It works in the same way that, like, if you have like a bucket of water and you spin it around your head, it doesn't, like the water doesn't fly out, it doesn't leave the bucket because it's pushed to the back of the bucket. Like it's just kind of like it's pressed up against the side. And so a space elevator is the same way. It's like the same principle. Like the Earth is spinning and you have a big counterweight that at the top of the space elevator that's like pushed up. It's just pushed up, and it's just like at the end of this really, really long rope, this really long tether. And so at a certain point, like you're going up the space elevator, at a certain point you stop like having gravity on you, you start becoming weightless, and then you start getting pushed to the top because you're flying outward, like propelled by this this counterweight at the top of the space elevator that's moving up.
So there's a point at which we're on the ground, we got gravity.
Yeah.
We go up. There's a point at which we're like, oh my god, we're totally weightless. And then there's a point where we're on the ceiling?
Yeah, because you have two forces. You have gravity pushing you down, and you have centrifugal force, which is not really a force, but we call it a force, like a fake force, and that's pushing you up. So they balance out at roughly 36,000 kilometers, and that's like called a geostationary orbit. It's like the level at which you hit geostationary orbit, and at that point, the two forces balance each other out. You have gravity pushing you down, centrifugal force pushing you up, and they just cancel out, and then you're like, like the forces below and above are equal, and you're weightless. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. We'll have to tell the actors all about it.
Yes, it's very important you get this right.
Okay, perfect. We've touched on this. On a space elevator going up, you would feel like gravity, then gravity would feel less, and then you would be on the ceiling. But what about going down? Would the opposite occur?
The opposite would occur. The thing is, though, there's something called the Coriolis effect. It's kind of like, you see... not my area of study, but I believe it's like the same force that causes like hurricanes to like spin. Like winds, like winds over the ocean to like spin in a certain direction.
Okay.
But basically what that means, it's like you have the centrifugal force pushing you up, but you also have another force that when you're going up the elevator, it's pushing you to the side. So gravity's gonna act the same way going up and going down, but like you're gonna have a force that will like push you to the side in one direction when you're going up, and then to the other side when you're going down. Because you're kind of like robbing the Earth of a little inertia. So like, angular momentum is conserved, right? Everything is going around at a certain speed. And so if you have a lot of things moving away from the Earth will slow down by ever so much. And so when you're going up, it's kind of like providing like a little bit of like a drag on the cable and like slowing the Earth down ever so much. Basically, you're not going to notice. It's like 1 second and like 3 billion years with the space elevator or something like that. But like it's gonna push you to the side on one direction, and then when you come down, it's gonna push you back the other way a little bit. So that's one of the differences when you go up versus down. Yeah.
Is it like when you flush a toilet and the water spins a certain way, or is that different?
I think that's a myth,
That's
unfortunately. Yeah.
It's a myth?
I don't think that happens. There are these hucksters that, like, if you go to, like, I've heard, if you go to, like, the equator, like, there'll be people who will, like, have, like, a basin, and then they'll say, hey, look, it goes one direction on this side of the equator, and then they'll step over the line and show, okay, the water spins the other way on the other side of the equator, but he's, like, faking it. That's, like, the Coriolis effect isn't, like, strong enough to affect sinks. Like, it'll affect, like ocean currents and things like that, but yeah, not at the scale of a sink.
Space elevator, busting myths.
Yes.
Okay, what are the biggest challenges to building a space elevator? Like, why don't we have one right now?
I mean, the biggest thing is the tether. The tether has to be made out of a very, very strong material. We don't have anything that is, well, okay. They always say it should be made out of, like, carbon nanotubes or graphene or something like that. Theoretically, those materials would be strong enough, but they also have to be long enough. And right now, I've seen, people say, oh yeah, carbon nanotubes, they're definitely going to be strong enough. However, the longest carbon nanotube that we have right now is about this long. Like, the longest one we've ever made is about this long.
It's like 2 feet, a foot and a half.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And space elevators need to be taller than that. So, like, the question is, how do you get them to be long enough? There are various ways to do that. Like, the way that I've seen that seems to make the most sense is taking graphene, which is just a layer of, like, carbon layer of carbon atoms arranged in a hexagon pattern. It's like a shaved version of, like, graphite, which is what you find in pencil lead. So you have graphene, and graphene by itself is strong enough, but, like, it's not thick enough. So you need to, like, kind of compress layers together and, like, kind of squish them together. They kind of, like, bond together, carbon bonds. You can take a bunch of graphene. I think they have a process. I think it's called polycrystalline graphene, if I remember correctly. You can just stack it in layers and then make it long enough. It's not going to be, like, a continuous perfect sheet of, like, hexagons. It's going to be all, like, kind of, like, pushed together in, like, patterns, stitched together so that it's not a perfect hexagon pattern. That weakens it dramatically. Theoretically, if you do this, it could be, like, approaching as strong as the tether needs to be, but even that, I'm not sure that's going to be quite strong enough. Like, that's why it's kind of science fiction right now, a little bit, because we just don't have a material that's strong enough that we can produce at the length scale that we need to.
So we basically need to make, like, hundreds of thousands of kilometers of a diamond rope.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Not diamond per se, but yeah, same material, but yeah. Carbon, yeah.
Pencil lead. But better.
Yes, better. Stronger pencil lead. Yes. Hard to sharpen.
Very hard to sharpen. So the space elevator has to be on the equator? Why?
Yes, because you need you need it to be you need to have it in, like, a geostationary orbit. Like, you need it to be in orbit. Like, you need it to constantly be over one point. Because if it's not over one point, it's going to swing back and forth. And that's not
bad.
Good. That's not bad. Yeah, that is very bad.
Oh.
Because then you're just kind of it's going to constantly go from side to side. It's going to, like, kind of flop around. That's no good. And the only point on Earth at which that's not going to happen is on the equator. Because the way to think about that is, so if something orbits a planet, it has to orbit around the center of mass of the planet. And the center of mass is at the center of the planet. So in order to stay in one place, when you are spinning around, like, if you're like, kind of, if you're not at the equator, you're going to be above the equator, and you can't spin at that latitude forever. Like, say you're, like, in New York. New York is, like, 41 degrees north or something like that. Like, in order to spin around the center of mass, you're going to have to go south of the equator and then north of the equator again. It's going to be, you're going to be flying around, right? You're going to be flying around a lot. If you're tethered to a space elevator, if you're tethered by a space elevator to the ground, what's going to happen is that you're going to be over New York, and then you're going to suddenly, like, over the course of the orbit, you're going to, like, be flying down past the equator to, like, Sao Paulo or whatever, and then back up again. If you're at the equator, that doesn't have to happen, because you can stay orbiting the center of mass without problems, yeah.
Got it. So the tether can stay one length
Yeah.
Because otherwise it would have to, if you wanted to stay in orbit, it would have to like change length somehow magically. But if it doesn't change length, then your satellite's going to be like, wow, 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 wow.
Yeah. Well, like let's say, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know how elastic it would be. I've heard some people say like, oh, maybe there's a little bit of elasticity. But assuming that there isn't, it's going to all be one fixed length. But what's going to happen is it's going to like sway back and forth. And if it sways back and forth, like it's going to, like I've heard it's just going to cause a lot of stress on the cable and things like that. Like it's, vibrations are a big problem. I saw a report that said like, one thing that potentially could wreck a space elevator is just like, you have like little like influences from the moon, influences from other things that contribute to potential vibrations on the cable. You want to minimize vibrations. Or carrying a lot of equipment really high up. Moving dramatically back and forth throughout, like through the air is not good. You can't control the motion. You want to have consistency. Like there are a lot of bad things that happen when the space elevator would take an unpredictable orbit, and you do not want that to happen. So you want it to stay in the same place.
Is it like the Tacoma Narrows Bridge, where if it shakes too much, it'll break itself?
Well, that's like resonance.
Oh.
Right? So that's basically like, objects have like a resonance, and that allows them to vibrate at a certain frequency, and it can contribute to a positive feedback loop where if there's some force driving an object at that resonance, it will shake more and more and more until it breaks. Oh. I haven't heard the space elevator having a specific resonance. It's not like if you were to think about, like, I don't know, I'm just imagining like the space elevator is like a giant guitar string or something like that. The frequency of that long string, I guess if you were to pluck it, would be very, very low, I suppose, like the lowest bass guitar, right? So I'm not worried about that, but it's more like if you're moving through the air very, very quickly and you don't know the orbit of the space elevator, what's going to happen is like there's a lot of like space junk, there's a lot of junk in space, and that's like a big danger. Like seriously, one of the things that I read about when I hear about the space elevator is like, it's very possible that, some debris from like some smashed up satellite, some, I don't know, Starlink satellite, whatever, you can cut that out. Like, some piece of space debris could hit the space elevator and it could break it, right? It could rip it in half. And one way to control that is to carefully control where it is, right? You could have the base mobile, right? You could have it kind of going from like moving around. What this will do will be to allow you to say, hey, there's an object coming. I know it's going to go this way. The space elevator is right here. I need to move the space elevator out of the way so that the object can pass and the space elevator is shifted in position.
Oh my gosh, so it's like, the International Space Station's coming. We gotta move.
Yes, exactly. I hope that's not, like, I hope that they would have planned it out so that the ISS isn't literally in the way. But yes, that makes me worry if they have not planned for that.
Amazing. Okay, so how many space elevators can we build before it becomes a problem?
Well, see, that's the thing. So there is the idea of, if you have one space elevator and it breaks, then yeah, it wraps around the planet, or maybe it disintegrates, and that's not good. The problem gets compounded when you have multiple space elevators, because what might happen in that case is like a chain reaction, right? Imagine like you have, like, this is my palm is the Earth, and then these are a bunch of, my phalanges are a bunch of space elevators sticking up, and one breaks and it wraps around the Earth and it hits this one, this one breaks, this one takes that. So like, say every nation has a space elevator and one of them breaks, it wraps around the Earth and it knocks out all the other ones as it goes down. It's like I'm taking everything out.
Space elevator dominoes?
Yes, absolutely. No. Absolutely. Mutually assured space elevator destruction.
Oh my gosh. So people would have to work together. We'd have to all work together.
We'd have to cooperate.
Oh no.
Oh no. We're sunk.
Disaster. We've talked a lot about what the space elevator is, how to make it, but why would humanity want to make a space elevator in the first place?
Money. It is cheaper. So rocket fuel is expensive. You need a lot of it. And then when you're done with it, like the big tanks of fuel just like come off of the rocket and land in the ocean. It's super expensive. Like, I think estimates, oh my God, I don't have exact numbers for this.
That's
it's
okay.
Like, yeah, it's like, orders of magnitude improvement, because instead of like having to like use a bunch of rocket fuel, which contributes massively to the mass of what you're sending into space, you just, you have a small mass and you just lift it into orbit and then release it and it flies off and that's it.
Amazing.
Like, I don't know, like $100 per kilogram or something like that. Super cheap, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible. Okay, so, how fast could a space elevator go, and what's powering a climber climbing up the space elevator to go up?
Yeah. So, the speed, I guess, is as fast as you want it. There's nothing potentially. I think there are like, as it gets faster and faster, I think it might put more strain on the space elevator tether, as I understand it. I haven't heard any like hard and fast limitations on the speed. The thing is, like, this is like 100,000 kilometers on the order of it. So like, I think like with super fast elevator speeds, it's gonna take you like 4 days. So I think it's like 300 miles an hour, something like that. But what's gonna power it? The thing I've seen is that the most is using a laser, like using a ground-based laser, shooting it up onto these panels that are specifically designed for the wavelength of laser. They catch the light. You have mirrors. A laser beam is collimated. It's focused, right? It's like one beam of light. It's in coherence. All the light is in the same phase. It can like go up and not spread out, like unlike a flashlight, which spreads out. A laser beam is very focused, and so you get one beam of light that can shine like super focused. The thing is, I think I've heard even if you have a laser beam in which the power is very focused and shining directly onto your target, onto like the climber, in this case, you're still gonna lose like I think like 95% of the power. But the thing is, you don't need that much power, right? You're just lifting it. So like the amount of power isn't really a problem in terms of lifting it.
We have a bunch of actors. We are training hard for this show.
Yes,
We're practicing like zero gravity, slow motion fight scenes.
Mandatory.
We're doing all of that. But what is the closest thing an actor can do on Earth that would feel like being on a space elevator?
Oh my God. I mean, like, I'm trying to think, like, are there, okay. Well, see, that's the thing. Like, I mean, when you're going up the space elevator, for like a lot of it, it's gonna feel, well, okay. It depends on how good the space elevator is, right? So, like, what's going to happen on a space elevator? Like, if you don't have, like, adequate radiation shielding, is you're going to start to go through a couple of radiation belts, And so that's not going to be good. That's going to cook you, right? So, like, if you want to approximate that on Earth, there are things you could do, but I wouldn't recommend it to have that effect. Like, it really depends. Like, how high class of a space elevator are we talking about? Is there radiation shielding? Is there temperature controls, right? It's going to get really cold as you go up the space elevator, right? Are you going to be controlling for that? Like, it's also going to be super boring. I guess you have to, like, if it's going to take days to get there, then your astronauts, your would-be astronauts have to simulate that to make sure that they don't get bored and, go crazy. I don't know.
So, would it be fair to say that it would feel like being on an Earth elevator?
No, it would not be fair to say that.
Okay.
Not at all.
No.
Not at all.
So what's the difference? Why wouldn't it feel like an Earth elevator? Say you controlled for the climate.
Yeah.
Would it feel like an Earth elevator?
You have to control for the climate. You have to control for the radiation. You have to control for the gravity. Oh my God. You have to control for the time. It's going to take a long time. Maybe the elevator's going to have to move in order to avoid some random piece of space debris that's going to fly at it. Yeah.
So, it would be fair to say that the experience of a space elevator would be like the experience of being on an Earth elevator if you control for the climate, if you control for the gravitational changes, if you control for any sway or movement, if you control for having to actually move the tether, you might sort of feel that, and if you control for the time, we would have to be there for 4 days, then you would say it would be kind of like being on an Earth elevator.
I guess.
We'll take it! Woo! What would you say to actors who are portraying space elevator engineers?
I mean, from what I understand, NASA astronauts have to be a lot more than just engineers. They have to be very physically fit. They have to be very mentally fit. They have to not want to murder each other, like being in a small confined space with each other. So they have to be very hardy, certainly.
Our cast is made up of mostly actors with very little physics background. What do you think is the most important thing to know about physics if you're an actor?
I think it is very important that you're going to be on a two-dimensional stage and there's gravity, but like everyone is going to know if you're supposed to be weightless in a scene and you're not being weightless. So I think the most important thing is to turn the gravity off on the stage so that all the actors will float. Otherwise, people are going to say this is a fraud and a sham, and the play's not going to do well.
What happens to the gravity when you go up? Why are we weightless?
Because basically you're falling, like you're continuously falling. So if you are in a spaceship and the spaceship is in an orbit around the Earth, the spaceship is in like free fall, you're in free fall. It's just that like you're falling and you miss the ground. Like imagine if you fall straight down, you're gonna hit the ground immediately. But like if you're falling and you're like kind of flying off to the side, if you're in orbit, you're in a rate such that like you're falling and flying to the side fast enough that you just keep missing the ground. And so you just keep falling forever. But you're weightless in the same way that if you fall normally, you're weightless.
So, what do we need to do as producers to prepare our actors for this show?
I feel like in order to make it realistic, I feel like the actors should have like a seriousness with their language, right? Like scientific terms are very exact. There's a precision when scientists talk about, or engineers, talk about, this is moving at a certain velocity. Velocity means a certain thing. It doesn't mean the same thing as acceleration. Using precise language, I think, is important. The challenge is going to be, well, this is a musical that you're doing for a wide audience, and so you need to balance that, I imagine. I'm not a producer, I wouldn't know, but I imagine you need to balance that with accessibility, and so that must be a challenge to make the scenario feel realistic, feel like it's grounded in, real science, but still be accessible and be fun.
All right. How will the scientific community react if we get this wrong?
I think this is of grave importance. I think everyone is counting on you all to get this right. Space... The topic of space elevators is, for too long has not been conveyed well on the silver screen or on the small stage, and I'm really worried about the ramifications of this. I feel like, this is our one shot, right? People who work in space elevators, I think they really want to know that people out there, like the broader community, has an accurate portrayal of this, and I don't know. I mean, I just feel like if something is not exactly right, I feel like if the language is imprecise, I feel like if you don't convey it well, I just don't know. It might be catastrophic for the field. I mean, I don't want to say good luck, but good luck.
Okay, great.
Sorry, I'm sorry.